Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not really the kind of articles that I like to read on this channel, but I was talking to a good friend of mine over the phone yesterday morning, and he lives in New York, and he was telling me about their lives in New York in the present, that they don't even go out. They don't enjoy any time out. That if they go out, it's just to go from point A to point B and get back home just to get the things that they need. And he told me something that, man, is very sad. He said that he feels like they're living in a prison because they always have to be on the lookout for their safety. They're always staying home. And like I said, they only go out to do things that they have to do, that they would rather not be outside. And it is so sad, especially in this case where New York is mentioned, that one of the greatest, if not the greatest city in the world at one time, is now turned into something that you could almost take out of The Walking Dead, right? Out of that movie, The Walking Dead. Nothing but zombies walking around, not knowing what's going on, and going along just to get along, just in order to make it for another day. And this is why I say, ladies and gentlemen, if you live in populated areas, in areas that really don't produce things that bring value, i.e., things that bring value are not gadgets. Things that bring value are not things on your phone or apps or the internet or things like that. When I talk about things that bring value is this. Do a thought experiment. Sit in your living room. Close your eyes. And then make believe that the lights went off and they're never coming back on. And look around. Do you see that flat screen TV in front of you? Does that really bring value to your life now that there's no electricity? I would say not. Take a look at all of the things around you that at that point would bring value to your life. I would say that the first thing that you would probably think about, depending on what time of the year it is heat, right? To keep warm and stay alive. Of course, food and water, medicines, things like that. But New York here, it seems, is turning into California, if it hasn't already. So the reason that I want to go through this quick article, not very long, is to allow you to see what maybe you're not being shown on the mainstream media. Only the people that actually live there can actually see what's going on. And although I don't live there, yes, I grew up in New York. When I grew up in New York, it wasn't a bad place to grow up in. I personally didn't want to stay there after I graduated high school, so I left. And I've never really been back. I've been back maybe twice since I left, just to visit friends and family. So I don't live there, but I'm telling you that I talked to someone that does live there, and what he explained to me pretty much matches what I'm going to read for you right here. If you live in a populated area, try your best to get out of there. And if you cannot, because it is very understandable that you may not be able to. And it's not only New York. I'm talking about a very populated area. Because resources are not there. The illusion of resources being there may be, right in your face. But resources are not there. And unfortunately, the people that are running these populated cities are just not doing a good job. I read and heard somewhere that in Chicago, so far this year, more children have passed away because of gunfire than children have passed away because of this health crisis that's going on. Just this year. Isn't that something, ladies and gentlemen? New York is fast resembling San Francisco and Vancouver, cities of The Walking Dead, as Junkies dealers take over Midtown streets with impunity. Another state that used to be one of the best states in the world. Not only in America, but in the world. California, ladies and gentlemen. Do I have to say anything about California? Look at what California has become. New York City has become the city of the walking dead. The publication quoted neighbors and eyewitnesses who live near 35th and 36th Street, who say that busy sidewalks are now littered with used needles, broken glass, crack pipes, trash, urine, and feces. And one can increasingly see junkies shooting up in broad daylight. Man, ladies and gentlemen, I could only imagine that people that have kids that live in these areas. You know, I've heard stories of, mainly like in Chicago, right? People like growing up in Chicago who say that they never walked in their homes, that they always crawled because they wanted to be under the window in case gunfire erupted from the outside. They would want to have that extra maybe 1.5 inch of protection from their siding to the, indoor wall paneling. Can you just imagine raising a child in a place like this? And the thing is that many people don't have a choice. Many people have to stay. They either have no socioeconomic status to allow them to move, or they have family ties that keep them there. What I would say is this: if you don't have a choice on whether you can stay in a city like this, that's this dire, then have a plan of being able to go somewhere else. If you can afford it, I would just buy a piece of land, an hour, 2 hours, a gas tank, a full gas tank away from where you live. And then maybe set up a small bit of infrastructure on that land that if you ever have to get there for whatever reason, you will have things there waiting for you. Maybe put up a 3-sided pole barn or something like that, where you can pull in with an RV and be protected from the outside weather. Maybe have a cache somewhere on that property where you have a month or 2 months supply of sustenance, water. Maybe put in a well. Get that property set up so that if you ever have to go there, you can survive there for a month or 2 or 6 until everything settles down and you can come back home, if you ever decide to come back home, depending on the situation, of course. If you can't afford to do that, then see if you have any family or friends that live outside of the city. Like I said again, a gas tank away, at least one gas tank away from the city, that you can maybe position some of your preps. And hopefully they're of the same mindset as you are when it comes to preparedness. And say, hey, if I position some of my preps here, can I come here? Can me and my family come here in case something ever happens that's out of our control, where we don't feel safe where we live anymore? Or you can even maybe, if you have really good friends and family that you trust with your life, maybe you can go in with them on buying a small piece of property. There's a lot of options, ladies and gentlemen, that you can take. And I know it's easy for me to say. I don't live in the city. I reside out of the city. I really don't have to find a place to go because this is my place. So it's easy for me to say. That's neither here nor there, though, because we're not talking about me. We're not talking about whether it's easy for me to say this or not, because I'm not in your situation. But what I'm saying is start thinking of alternatives. Of where will you go once it gets so bad that you have no choice. And the detective here says, this is a city problem. How has this city eroded this far so quickly? And he concluded, with lack of treatment and open use of drugs, the city has lost its focus. This is criminal, ladies and gentlemen. When these elected politicians take office, and no matter where it is, and they don't do things that protect the public, the people that put them in office, in my opinion, that's criminal. But they're allowing this to continue to go on. Businesses which form the heart of the neighborhood are all too aware of the downward side and increasingly public safety danger. We are appalled and disgusted by the drug use and other illicit behaviors that are taking place on our sidewalks in Midtown Manhattan and throughout the city of New York. The report actually went so far as to feature photographs of the sordid scenes it was documenting in action. Drug deals and exchanges happening with impunity in the middle of the day. Shirtless homeless men shooting meth on the sidewalk. Police standing around checking their phones as if bored. Residents and tourists walking past junkies sitting dazed in a trance-like state of oblivion. And ladies and gentlemen, the reason that the police are sitting around checking their cell phones as if they're bored is because they have been, or in my opinion, are being restricted from doing their job. Not because they're bad people, but because they're being restricted from doing their job. Just like in, I believe it's in San Francisco, or I'm not sure if it's in the whole state of California, where you can literally walk into a department store and just take whatever you want, as long as it does not equal to or more than $950. So you can pretty much steal with impunity anything you want, less than $950, and the police will not even come to that store if they're called. They will not even come. Because in that state or in that city, they said, hey, you can steal whatever you want. Just make sure it's not $950 or more. And it'll just be a misdemeanor, not a felony, not grand theft. After watching what was an obvious drug deal going down on 36th Street, the Post reporters crucially observed further. The New York Police Department appears to have only token presence. 2 cops stood on 8th Avenue between 35th and 36th, leaning up against a police van while staring into their phones as illicit activities swirled around them. Man, this is starting to sound like a third world country, ladies and gentlemen. Really, a third world country. But cops had been effectively ordered by the city and state leaders to let junkies roam free. All of this has no doubt impacted violent crime in the area, with the report citing New York City numbers to point out that robberies have jumped a whopping 182% this year alone compared to last. And felony assaults increasing 163% as well. Like my friend told me, they feel like they're in a jail because they only go out when they have to go out. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Californication of New York City. And that is so unfortunate. I could just imagine what the world thinks about the United States of America these days. I could just imagine that we must be like the laughing stock of the world with how things are going here. I know that, isn't it incredible that we still have it relatively good for the most part? That we only have a few, maybe a dozen or so, or it could be more, like cesspools around the U.S. But the problem is that those cesspools, when they get over full, they spread and they infect everything around them. And it's just a shame. It's just a shame what's happening to New York City. Same thing that's happened to California. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any better, ladies and gentlemen. People have lost their way. We have lost our way as a nation. And before we can get back on the right road, man, I'll tell you what, we're going to have some hard roads ahead. So make sure that you're prepped up. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that you're prepped up. Because you never know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. Having said that, we'll talk to you later on. I hope that you have a great day today. Thank you very much for joining in today. I know this is kind of not really gloomy and doomy, but pretty kind of like a down video because it's very sad. To me, it's very sad to see this happening to New York. When I was reading articles like this about California, I was like, yeah, California's been headed that way for a long time. But then after talking to my friend this weekend and then opening this article up, I'm like, man, it is that bad. It really is that bad. And it's very sad to see that happening to one of the greatest cities in the world, or at least that used to be one of the greatest cities in the world. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out. God bless.